On this motion, the yeas are 43, the nays are 50. The motion is not agreed to. The Democratic leader.
Mr. President, if the average American heard someone read a letter from Coretta Scott King that said what it said, they would not be offended. They would say that's someone's opinion, that's all. It seems to me we could use Rule 19 almost every day on the floor of the Senate. This is selective enforcement and another example of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle escalating the partisanship and further decreasing comity in the Senate. I yield the floor.
Senator from Rhode Island.
Mr. President, I have a question. I guess it's in the nature of a parliamentary question, and that is whether it would be in order to ask unanimous consent that the letter from which Senator Warren read be put into the record as a confirmation that she was in fact accurately reading from the letter, that it be added as an exhibit in the congressional record.
The text of the letter is in the record of the Senate as the senator was reading it in her testimony.
The text of the letter as she read it, but not the complete letter.
The senator may ask consent.
May I ask unanimous consent that the complete letter from which Senator Warren read be made a part here of the congressional record to confirm that she has in fact read from it.
Objection is heard.
Mr. President.
Senator from Vermont.
Mr. President, this is fascinating. I'd say to my colleagues, I've served here longer than any member of this body. I've been here for 42 years. I've been here when Democrats were in the majority and when the Republicans were in the majority. But Democratic presidents, Republican presidents, I never, ever saw a time when a member of the Senate who has to put into the record a letter, especially by a civil rights icon, and somebody objected. It's always been done. I've had letters that have been, people have asked to put in that were contrary to the position I might take. Of course I would not object. They're allowed to do that. I've seen letters when members on both sides of the aisle have debated back and forth, and the other side would put in letters that were contrary to their opponent's positions, and of course nobody objected. Don't let the Senate turn into something it's never been before. I would hope that cooler heads would prevail. We go back to the things that made the Senate great, and made the Senate the conscience of the nation, as it should be. I have never once objected to a senator introducing a letter, even though it took a position different than mine. I've never known a Republican senator to do that. And here we're talking about a letter from a civil rights icon. Mr. President, let's not go down this path. It's not good for the country. It's not good for the United States Senate. It's not good for democracy. And it sure as heck is not good for free speech. I admire the senator from Rhode Island. He's a man of great integrity, man who is Attorney General of his state, U.S. Attorney in his state. His request was something normally accepted automatically. I would hope senators would reconsider. I yield the floor.
Mr. President,
Senator from Idaho.
Mr. President, I'm the one that entered the objection. And let me say to my good friend who just spoke, I agree with him 100% that we should get back to what made the Senate great. We have rules around here, and the rules are very clear that you don't impugn another senator. Now, you can't do that in your words, and you can't do it with writings. You can't hold up a writing that impugns another senator and say, well, this is what somebody else said. I'm not saying it, but that's okay. It is not okay. It is a violation of the rules, and we should get back to what made this Senate great, and that is staying within the rules, staying within civility, and not impugning another senator, whether it's through words or whether it's through writings. I yield the floor.
Senator from Florida.
I have a parliamentary. All right. The ruling of the chair was based on the advice of the parliamentarian. Is that accurate, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President? On the advice of the parliamentarian that the rule had been violated?
No. The chair sustained the ruling of the majority leader on his own.
Okay. The second question that I have, Mr. President, is the rule say that anything that impugns another member of the Senate directly or indirectly, is that an accurate reading of the rule?
Senator, you are correct, and I will read the paragraph. This is Rule 19, Section 2. No senator in debate shall, directly or indirectly, by any form of words impute to another senator or to other senators any conduct or motive unworthy or unbecoming a senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
Senator from Oregon,
a parliamentary inquiry.
state your question.
If a member of the Senate is being considered for nomination and we're exercising our advice and consent power, and if there is factual conduct in that individual's background that is presented on the floor that is uncomplimentary, would presenting the facts of that conduct in the process of debating an individual be considered in violation of Rule 19?
The rules make no distinction between those senators who are nominees and those who are not. And the rule does not permit truth to be evidence of a slight or to be a defense of a slight.
Mr. President, just to make sure I understand that clearly, if we are considering a nominee who happens to be a senator and we state factual elements of their background, for example, conviction of a crime that is inappropriate conduct in the past, stating the factual record about an individual would be considered in violation of Rule 19.
Each of these cases will be decided by the presiding officer in the context at that time.
Just to clarify, if I could, therefore, the point is that something can be absolutely true as perhaps a point that was made earlier. A statement can be true in a letter that is presented, but even if it's true and accurate for a person under consideration for nomination, it would still be in violation. In other words, the fact that an individual is found in violation of Rule 19 doesn't mean that the statement had to be false. It could have been a true statement. Thank you.
You are correct, Senator.
Thank you.